Hello and welcome to this special radio town hall meeting against corruption by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMORG. I am Adaobi Obiabumo, the program manager at PRIMORG. PRIMORG is a civil society group with a mandate to promote good governance, participation and accountability. The MacArthur Foundation supports this town hall meeting against corruption. Today's town hall meeting will feature the winner of the 2018 Integrity Icon Award, Mrs. Bukola Adewumi. We'll also have on the program Christopher Isiguzo, President NUJ. We'll speak with him via phone. We have Emmanuel Ogbeche, the Chairman NUJ Abuja Council in the studio. Hamzat Ajibola, the editor, ICIR in the studio. Olatokewa Ayoade, Head of News, Kiss FM in the studio also. We have Tosin Kolade from News Agency of Nigeria, NAN. We also have Nenga Shriwa, representative of Accountability Lab, Nigeria. Dr. Theophilus Abba, who is also the director of Daily Trust Foundation, he will join us in the studio also. Let me introduce the moderator for today's town hall meeting. She has been into an area of advocacy and functioned actively in leadership teams for pro-Nigeria campaigns. She is the executive director at Tech Heart NG, and her interests revolves around women, media, politics, and technology. Chioma Agwebu, we are glad to have you to moderate this radio town hall meeting against corruption. Remember that you can be part of this meeting, but ready to join us through phone in the course of the deliberations. You can also send us a text on 0902-265-6167, 09022656167. Let me leave the stage for our able moderator, Chioma Agwebu, who will come in after this timeout. Voices against corruption. Let the people speak.
Hello and welcome to PRIMORG's public feedback series on corruption, called Voices Against Corruption. And we ask, do you think the media is doing enough in the fight against corruption in Nigeria?
I believe that government is using the media because you see every media organization in this country has one politician or the other they are subject to.
Actually doing their best possible, but one thing about identifying a problem is creating the awareness and following it up. So even if you say this is what the problem, you've actually known what the problem is and there is no implementation or no reinforcement in a way to put an end to it, it will continue like that year in, year out.
Government has created a system that restricts even the media. And the reason is the government has succeeded in creating fear in the minds of the citizen. They come up with all kinds of law that will negate what they believe they are giving to the citizens.
The media is doing enough to say corruption here, corruption there. But always when the media said, what is the reaction of the government?
Thank you so much, Adobe, and a big welcome to everyone to this program wherever you are listening to us, in your car, at home, wherever it is, you're very, very welcome. Today we're talking integrity as usual. Now, stories of integrity in the media are hardly ever told. Most of the things we hear are the tales of how the media could have done better, how journalists take sides, how they're heavily influenced by newsmakers and sources to write favorable reports, stories, and features. There's nothing on integrity. There's more on brown envelopes. Stakeholders during this town hall meeting will situate the media in its place in the fight against corruption. So what role does the media have to play? These speakers will also address the challenges of upholding integrity by professionals in the media trade. Now, PRIMORG's Radio Town Hall Meeting Against Corruption is a collaborative effort with Accountability Lab Nigeria to tell the stories of integrity in public places with support from the MacArthur Foundation. Now, though not formally recognized as a part of a political system, the media is also referred to as the fourth estate of the realm, and it commands explicit capacity of advocacy and implicit ability to frame political issues and wield significant indirect social influence. Now, today, We're going to be talking with Bukola Adewumi of the News Agency of Nigeria, who's been celebrated as a journalist with integrity. It is indeed our pleasure to feature her today. Mrs. Adewumi will join us shortly on phone from Lagos. The president of the NUJ will also join us via phone. Now, remember that we're together. Today, we are definitely together. You're in this studio town hall meeting with us wherever you are listening. And you have the opportunity to make your contributions when we open our phone lines. So call in. Tell us how we can use the media to fight corruption in Nigeria. You can text us on 090-2265-6167, or you can call us on 080-999-87770, or you can also call us on 090-30,899. Now, let's start with Accountability Lab Nigeria. Mr. Mnenga Shiwa, tell us how difficult and tasking and rigorous it was for you before Mrs. Bukola Adewumi was selected into the Integrity Icon Club.
Thank you so much for the question. Usually it is the tasking, it is a Herculean job to come up with a man or woman of integrity out of so many Nigerians. It is particularly disturbing and difficult because the perception of many Nigerians out there is that you can't find a man, a woman of integrity anywhere in any part of this country. So it was a great hunt to go out there, get nominations, and go through a rigorous selection process to arrive at her. But we're glad to get one, and indeed a woman, a journalist who is outstanding and has been doing greatly in her space.
Fantastic. Now let's see if we have Mrs. Bukola Adewumi ready to speak to us from Lagos. Hello, good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Our integrity icon, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank God.
How does it feel to be the integrity icon? Tell us, how are you feeling today?
I feel great. I feel opportune to be able to serve because I see myself as if it's a call, and I'm happy doing it.
Fantastic. Now you've been celebrated as a journalist with integrity. How are you able, because we hope this is continuous present tense, right? How are you able to practice journalism uprightly in a country where media influence is often sought to be bought?
My saying is this every time I get to ask, that I see integrity as part of my lifestyle. So it's not something that is difficult for me to carry on or to live by it. It's part and parcel of who I am, and that's why it's easy for me to live like that and not see it as a burden or something that you have to be under checks and balances.
Okay, but so I understand what you've said, and I only wish that, there's more Nigerians, there's more people everywhere really who have the same principles and values that you do. But I also know that you have been tested, right? So can you share one experience, any one that you remember, maybe the most interesting one, of a particular challenge or temptation that you faced on the job and what you did?
Okay. There was one that recently I went for a program, and what I was supposed to write on the analysis of the program was different from what I want to say like the coordinator or the organizer was saying, which has to do with reporting exactly what was on ground in terms of the numbers of bags of things being supplied. And when I asked, let me give an example. You said you've given this particular set of people maybe 100 hospital beds, and I asked the person, but why is that we cannot see the total number here? And the thing was like, originally it is this number, but for this, just write this. And I was like, no, I will write what I think I can see here. Knowing fully well that was not what is supplied. It was not the set amount that was being supplied. And the person was like, no, this is all you have to write. And, you wanted to question that because they were not happy with it. They were not happy because The lady later called the person that invited me and like, why is he asking questions? You understand?
Yeah.
So it's to make like, oh, are you the only one? Why are you asking questions? I don't know if you get what I'm trying to explain.
I do.
So sometimes in the course of this job, in you trying to do your job and you want to ask questions so that you could be fair and report the right thing, you know, they just type you a name like, are you the only one, or you don't know that this is happening, or why do you want to know, why are you asking? So those are part of the challenges that we face in this job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, in 2018, you bagged the Integrity Icon Award over, you know, celebrating your years of truthfulness and discipline. Since you got this award, what has been the experience you've had, you know, from your family, your friends, your colleagues? What has it been like?
It's been a very good story, sir. You know, the name Integrity Icon, everybody just like look up to you, and I know I've encountered a lot of young Nigerians, and they're like, I wish I can do like this. And I keep telling them it's something that is in you that you can do. It's when you think you cannot do it, that means you yourself are the one telling yourself you cannot do it, you want to compromise. You understand?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people now call you, Integrity Icon, oh, they don't do this around her, you know, maybe she will talk, she's going to say something negative that, you know, it's not going down with you because she's not seeing it the way you're seeing it. Yeah, she's not celebrating corruption, and then maybe in that particular place, it's what is being celebrated. So they feel that you are not just part of the show, and then some people just feel, oh, you are just there on top, I want to be like you. You know, the name sells you out.
Fantastic. Now, thank you so much for talking to us today. So excited to have had the pleasure to speak with you. And I hope that all our guests in the studio, everyone listening to us everywhere in Nigeria, and even online, I hope that they take these things that you've said to heart. And I hope you have a lovely, lovely evening. I hope you're staying safe and you're adhering to COVID-19 protocols.
I am trying. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. You're welcome. Take care now. Okay, let's
Alright.
come back to our guests in the studio. We all listened to Mrs. Adewumi, the 2018 Integrity Icon Award winner. Let's hear from Tosin Kolade, who has been positively influenced by Mrs. Adewumi. I must say, I've been positively influenced as well, and I only listened to her for like all of 2 minutes. So can you tell us about her?
I have known Mrs. Bukola Adewumi for the past 10 years. We've been in the journalism profession for 10 years. And so far so good. It's been fantastic. She has been a mentor to me, because there are times when you go for events and you see how journalists look around waiting for transport in quotes, you know, the brown envelope syndrome, but she never waits behind, you know. That is a big lesson for every one of us. So usually when you go for events, you just make sure, just do your story and get the hell out, file your story, and that's it. So far so good. I am a mentee of hers, so to say.
That's exciting to hear. I'm going to speak to Mr. Emmanuel Ubeche now. What is the prevalence of people like Mrs. Adewumi in the media industry today?
It was heartwarming listening to Mrs. Adewumi, and to think that a journalist could be found as an icon of integrity, where we find a situation where we are the dog, so everybody needs to give us a bad name in order to hang us. The prevalence, it's far and in between. If I were to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, I could be looking at just 4. That tells you it's not a pass mark. And there are various reasons for that. Without making excuses for myself and my colleagues, I think society has conspired to institute poverty in the media, because politicians, or the elite generally, understand the power the media wields. And in order to undermine the journalist and the media worker, the conspiracy is let there be an economic poverty. If we impoverish the journalists, then we can undermine the system. We can bring them in as collaborators in weakening our democracy, in instituting corruption, and in getting away with the abuse of the rule of law. Because any media or any society that empowers its media becomes responsive, becomes responsible, and responds to the yearnings of the people. In our country, take a look at the media institutions that are operating. About 80% of them are owned or have affiliations to politicians or one economic interest or the other. What does that tell you? And these are people that wealth power, yet they find it very convenient not to pay journalists, not to pay those working in those institutions. But we can find a way out of this. One is through legislation. We have always made the point and argument that there needs to be a media industry bill that stipulates the basic minimum in which if you ought to own a media house, you must fulfill. We're all witnesses. I'm happy my bosses are here, where a certain individual went to South Africa and felt what he was doing here in Nigeria he could do there, but he was chased out under a year because the system has put in caveats and safeguards, you understand, to protect those that are working for any media organizations. But there is no law. Yes, I'll say there are labor laws, but you and I know that I have a colleague, and I think he won't mind, Paul Ibe, that took this same media organization to court, and for over 10 years, the court is here to give judgment on that. So what does that tell you? That there is a grand conspiracy. But society can help if we find foundations, if citizens are willing to pay for news content. You ask people to subscribe just for news alerts. Everybody wants freebies. And the media space cannot continue to operate in such a situation where your economic well-being is not guaranteed. And until we begin to change that conception, we will always continue to find 4/10 of like Mrs. Adeomi.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Obeche there, talking about the prevalence of people like Mrs. Adeomi in the media industry. But you also then went off and talked about... No, that's great. You talked about the reasons why we don't have enough people like her within the media industry. Now we're going to speak to Mr. Theophilus Abba, who I know very well. He's a director at the Daily Trust Foundation. He's a PhD holder. He's everything from forensic linguistics to investigative and data journalism. I know him as a trainer of how many years? Over 3 decades. He's going to tell us the challenges facing the media in playing a pivotal role in the fight against corruption. Now, Mr. Obeche has talked about, salaries and welfare, etc. What are some other challenges facing the media that stops them from playing the pivotal role they should play in the fight against corruption?
I thank you very much for being given the opportunity to be here and to see my chairman and to see my editor and to see... Actually, when you talk about the challenges facing the media in fighting corruption, one of the things that comes to mind instantly was a story we did in 2015, shortly before Buhari took over as president. We interviewed Ahmed Joda, who was like, I think he chaired the transition committee, and the committee was supposed to prepare a document for Buhari on the way forward. And when we had the interview with him, I cast the headline. He says there was fraud everywhere. Now, that was the headline. And that is how I want to start the experience of journalists. We have a country where everywhere you turn, you find fraud. Because the system is such that there is just fraud everywhere. Just coming out of a meeting now, we're discussing that even in this country, meetings will not hold, but minutes of meetings will be written. And everybody will sign that meetings held. Now, in this same country, somebody will be given a contract to prepare an investigative report. And after he has done it, the chairman of the agency will say, let's burn this report. We don't want it to go out because nobody is willing to implement. So in this country, there's so much fraud that for journalists, the challenge is that the system is so skewed in such a manner that, you see, if you want to investigate, you meet a lot of roadblocks. Because in everywhere, any corner you turn to, you find a lot of corruption. I remember there was a young man that I mentored. You know, he was doing an investigative story and, you know, very interesting story. And I was encouraging him. So one afternoon he called me, said, I want to say, I said, okay, come, let's talk. He said, look, I'm not going to do this story. I said, why? He said, he got to an office, I mean, where he was supposed to do the investigation. And one woman sat her down. He said, look, don't you have a job? He said, look, I have a job. I work with social and social media organization. He said, I want to do this. He said, yes, let me tell you, much more than what you want to investigate happens here. But even if you write, nothing will happen. That is the major frustration we face as journalists in this country. Section 22 of the Constitution says, you hold government accountable. Now, but those in authorities are not interested in what you do, because they are not interested in transparency and accountability. And that is a major problem. You know, for those who have done investigative reporting, one of the problems you face is that after you have struggled, you've gone around, you know, gathered all the details that you need to gather, you publish your story, and you expect the National Assembly to take it up. You expect the EFCC to take it up. You expect ICP to take it up. You expect agents of government to take this thing up and prove further, to take action. Nobody will answer. Nobody will do anything. It's a major problem that we face as investigative journalists in this country. I did a story in 2010, and that story was published internationally. So one woman coming from South Africa said, was this story read in your country? I said, of course it was. So what did the National Assembly do? I said, nothing. You see, because they are not willing to be transparent, they are not willing to be accountable. The National Assembly has that role of holding the executive accountable, but they are not playing that role. At the level of the State House of Assembly, they are not doing it. All of them are lackeys of governors. So, you see, because of this atmosphere, what we do as investigative journalists seems not to be valued. You know, you see the system not even responding. Perhaps you do these stories to sell your newspapers, but then it is not enough for you to sell your newspapers. You do these stories so that at least there could be a change in the society. But we are not seeing those changes. You discover that even TSA, if you hear what happens under TSA, if you hear what happened under IPPIS, you know, you hear that, look, IPPIS, oh, it is supposed to, scrutinize civil servants to ensure that there is no ghost workers. And we hear all sorts of things happen. That even these people who are supposed to prevent ghost workers are adding ghost workers to the system. So I think if you ask me the challenge we face as journalists, it is just that the system is not appreciating what we do. The system is so skewed in such a manner that we are frustrated, you know, doing what we do. You go to a court of law. I was reading a story this afternoon that a journalist secured 100 million damage, you know, and even for that to be enforced is a problem.
5 years after.
5 years after. Now this guy, he was maltreated, and he said, look, this is what the court has awarded, give it to me. It's not being done. So that is the major problem we are facing. The judiciary, the executive, other arms of government, they are not supporting the work we do. They are not interested in transparency and accountability. And that is the major problem that we face as journalists. Like my chairman has mentioned things about payment, salaries, and all this. There are issues. You see, if you look at the the NPO, the National Press Council Law. The National Press Council Law has all these things, but then it has been frustrated. The publishers went to court to frustrate it. So it's a whole lot of problem that we are facing, being journalists and, fighting for transparency and accountability in this country.
Thank you so much. If you're listening to us, don't forget, we're talking integrity, we're talking accountability, but we're also talking about the role the media plays in fighting corruption in Nigeria. You can be a part of the program. You can text us 090-2265-6167, or you can call once we open the phone line 0809-99-87770. You can also call 090-30,000, that's 3 and 5 and 4 zeros, 899. We can't wait for you to be a part of this program. Now I'm going to speak to Mr. Ajibola Hamzat from ICIR, which is International Center for Investigative Reporting. One aspect of journalism that has been on the back foot is investigative journalism, which is necessary in unearthing secrets. Tell us the challenges. Again, we're talking challenges, but what I really like is everyone has mentioned challenges, but also mentioned potential ways out of these challenges. So what are the challenges with investigative journalism, especially in Nigeria? I know Mr. Theophilus started, but perhaps there are other perspectives you want to share.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. I'm grateful to be invited to this place. And of course, we're talking about this kind of a topic. Of course, as an investigative journalist, problems in this country, as Dr. Theophilus has enunciated, is very, very enormous. You find out that, of course, there are laws that have been made to make work easier, but those laws, they are rather, enforced in breach. So you have FOI, for instance, which allows the agency of government to keep all their records open, and so that as a journalist, all you need to do is just to go to the platform and access those information. But how many of those agencies of the government are actually keeping those records in the public domain? They don't. And then a journalist, you make efforts to reach out to those people and say, okay, I want to invoke the law now. Provide these documents in the interest of the public interest. And yet, you still meet a lot of brick wall. I can tell you here that in the last 2 months or so now, my organization, the International Center for Investigative Reporting, we have sent out almost 200 FOI requests to different agencies of government, asking them to provide the details of their spending, capital spending, between 2015 that this presidency started until now. And the response we have gotten is less than 20%. So, and as an investigative journalist, the material for your work is evidence. You cannot manufacture the story. You need to talk to those ones who should know about what you are talking about. People whose responsibility it is to take certain decisions. And you have to reach out to these people to get all those facts before you can go ahead and report. But every side you go to, you meet a brick wall. That is one serious challenge that faces an investigative journalist. And then secondly, some of these agencies as well, even when you try to manage to get something together, despite all the challenges they make you go through, and then the report is out, they're forced to react to say that what you have just produced is fake news. So not minding the resources, the time, the energy, the money you put in gathering all those facts and making it, look very valid. Somebody will just come out of nowhere and just, with one stroke of a pen or with one sentence, and just say that, don't mind them, it's fake news. And we have several examples of that. There was a case of some money that was spent in the presidency between the last 4 years about some researches that were supposed to be carried out that were not carried out. We looked for this document, it was nowhere to be found. And we're saying, okay, money have been allocated for this research. The research is non-existent. So who spent the money, or where's the money? And we had to go up and down. Where those people who are supposed to answer that question, they are just some few meters away. And they were just, tossing us left, right, and center until we were able to get some kind of task response. And when the reports came out, the first response we got from the Vice President's office was, no, that's not true. What you guys are writing about is this and is that. Despite all the facts laid out before them that, look, the response we got from you does not show that you guys have actually done anything called research. and the money that was made available is nowhere to be found. So somebody should be responsible for that money. So those are the kind of experiences that you go through every day. And every agency of the government that you meet, for them to account for the public money, it is the same brick wall that you meet all the time. So as an investigative journalist, that is our experience on a daily basis.
Okay, it sounds really, really depressing at this point. Like all of the speakers have talked about one seriously debilitating challenge that the media faces, whether it's just in reporting or telling their stories, or even in investigative journalism, which is the lifeblood of journalism. Final guest in the studio, Ayoade Olatokewa, is going to be answering the question, how difficult has it been reporting with utmost objectivity and influenced by politicians and other Nigerians? But also, don't just tell me how difficult it's been. Tell us how you've been able to navigate it so that some other journalists listening to you today can take something from your experience.
Okay, thank you for having me, and thank you for my senior colleagues here in the studio. Yeah, I think for me, the foundation of objectivity in journalism lies beneath the conscience, and that is good conscience. You know, the way we started our foundation as a journalist also matters. For someone like me, before I could really be brought to say I want to be a journalist, I had so much tough resistance from my parents, my father in particular, and my uncle, because my dad wanted me to study accountancy and my uncle wanted me to go for law. You know, so but I had to stand my ground that I want to be a journalist. And my dad said one thing, and I can't forget. He gave me the quote from late Nnamdi Azikiwe. He said, "An average schoolboy might be pardoned of his ignorance, and he can be educated. But if a journalist is ignorant, it becomes a liability to the society, to the country itself." So I took that on the left hand, which made me realize that journalism in Nigeria is not about money, but you really have a lot of work to do. Naturally, I should be discouraged, but I said no. I'm coming to what I face as a challenge. I can even bring one to bear. I do a program on economy, and it's been sponsored by one of the government agencies. And I stumbled on a story that is actually bad about the same agency. And in the course of the program, the thoughts came, but you know they are sponsoring this program. I said no. I remember that conscience it pricks if you don't do the right thing. And then you now look at what is losing more. Is it the people or the organization? Why do you want to study journalism? You told yourself you wanted to speak what people could not, have the boldness to say. And if you are going to do it, you have to damn the consequences. They will not sponsor the program the next time, but you have to do the right thing. I battled with that, but because of the conscience, I'm like, no, you have to do the right thing. And that's what most journalists face on this job. But I also tell my reporters in the newsroom, practicing journalism in Nigeria is not about the money, it's about the passion. If you have the passion, the money can come. The stories that took me out of Nigeria I didn't get a dime. I did about mining activities in Pape then, the illegal miners and how the community, they were suffering no water, the farmland and stuff. It took me 6 months. I did it, but I was happy because I went to Ministry of Mining then, and the man had to call me that, okay, we told this my point. They are going to look into it. They wanted to do the Mining Act. So he asked me for it. I was happy that I could effect a change, and that gave me the joy. So I made them realize that we have this perception in Nigerian journalism that the brown envelope is the thing, but it's not everybody. It's our individual foundation that determines what we do as a journalist in Nigeria.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I can imagine how tough it must have been deciding to go ahead with this story against the people sponsoring your program. That must have been really, really tough. Thank you so much for sharing that. Don't forget, this is PRIMORG's Radio Town Hall meeting against corruption. This is the integrity episode. You can still be part of this program. If you want, send us a message or call us. Now I'm going to come back to my panelists, and let's talk a little about corruption, right? We're still on corruption today. We're going to talk about how it's affected media reportage in Nigeria. But in responding now, I want you to give a solution, right? What should be done? Let's not just keep rehashing problems. Let's talk about solutions. Also to mention that the phone lines are now open. You're welcome to text us. You're welcome to call us. I'm just going to say the numbers again. The number to text is 0902 265 6167. Let's take your responses, starting from Mr. Emmanuel Ogbeche. In what ways has corruption affected media reportage in Nigeria? What can we do about it?
It has affected them adversely. I'm happy everybody else has pointed to that fact, because you lose your self-esteem, you lose the dignity and worth of who you are. And that is why not too long ago we saw a very damning outburst from an individual, because it was being fueled by corruption, and every other person sat with. But I think what we can do is, first of all, training and retraining. We must inspire young reporters to have the courage to damn the consequences. That tomorrow will always be greater than today if you work hard, if you stay consistent and persistent in what you're doing. Because unfortunately, we live in a society where we just look at immediate gains. People just assume that you must just make it today and whatever happens tomorrow, But if we all come to the realization that the media is the future of this country and this society, that the health center in your village that has not been built could have been built if you were steadfast. It's going to make a whole lot of difference. Unfortunately, because of...
I think we have a call coming in. Do we? Hello?
Hello?
Can you tell me your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hello, good evening.
Your name and where you're calling from, please. Oh, I think we lost that. Sorry, we'll come back to you, Mr. Emmanuel.
Okay. Yeah, because of paucity of funds, we find media organizations unable to organize trainings, but I thank people like Dr. Tifil Saba and the Daily Trust Foundation for what they are doing. We need more trainings. If we get the right sort of trainings, I think it's going to impact positively in the long run.
Thank you very much. We'll go straight to you, Mr. Abba. Dr. Abba, I beg my pardon. Dr. Abba. What should we do? What are the challenges, but also what can we do?
One of the challenges we face is that because of corruption, many stories are not published. Now, from reporters to editors, I've met journalists who have very big storylines with evidence, but they say, okay, we couldn't publish because of A, B, C, D, because if we publish, so and so person who will know that I am the one who gave out the story. And then,
Sorry, I think we have another call coming in. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Could you tell me your name and where you're calling from, please?
My name is Happiness, calling from Mpape, Abuja.
Stick, what's your contribution to the program, Happiness? I think she's the one who called earlier and we just lost her again. This is one thing that journalists need to investigate. Why are our lines dropping? Okay, I apologize, Dr. Abba, back to you. You were talking about solutions.
Well, I said many stories that ought to have been published are not published because of corruption. And if you go through our papers, I'm a critic of what we publish in our newspapers. I keep saying that let's assume 60% of what we publish in our newspapers are PR stories. Some of them not worth being printed. In so many parts of the world, many of the stories that we publish on a daily basis in big newspapers should not be printed because they don't merit being printed. Because people should not buy such stories to read. The solution, like you want us to emphasize, is like my chairman said, a whole lot of training and reorientation. I keep thinking about the story of Joseph. Joseph had the opportunity of sleeping with Potiphar's wife, and maybe he would have been promoted in that office. Because he was already there. He was promoted. Maybe he would have thought that, with if I cooperate with this woman, my fortunes in this house will be made great. But he deferred the gratification, and then he got a bigger thing. Now, if journalists, many journalists, if they have that attitude to say, I can say no. If I say no, I will get a bigger, offer. There are so many things to do apart from reporting he said. There's a lot of things that journalists can do. So if you say, look, I'm not going to compromise, you get the reward. I know a friend, he was investigating the oil sector, and he was giving $10,000. He got to a man who was supposed to, respond, and the person said, look, young man, you are just starting life. I will change your life. Take this $10,000. Just forget about this story. He said, no, sir, I'm not taking this money. All I want is your response. The man said, look, are you crazy? It's $10,000. You know how? Okay, I'll give you $100,000. He says, sir, I'm not taking it. He said, look, you don't want me to change your life? He said, I don't want my life to be changed. I just want your response to this. And eventually, the man did not respond. He left that place. He got the information he needed from some other person. But that his integrity was intact.
Yes.
So it's not a matter of collecting, like we talk about brown envelope. That is not what to change your life. What to change your life is totally different. Most of the time I keep arguing. You see, if you put together a brown envelope you collect for 1 year, it cannot even buy you a car. Most of the time you can't even build a house.
That's a fantastic point. Thank you so much, Dr. Abba. Thank you. Don't compromise. Keep your values intact. Don't let anybody change your life. They should answer your questions. We're going to talk now very quickly on the phone with the president of the NUJ, Mr. Christopher Isigizo. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Fantastic. Welcome to today's episode of the Radio Town Hall on corruption. This is the integrity episode. I have one question for you. What are the major constraints militating against the media taking up its role in the fight against corruption in Nigeria? Ask the NUJ president. What is your perspective on this question? Our guests in the studio have answered.
Okay, thank you very much. I just listened to the last part of the points made by the last speaker. I didn't just get the details of what he said, but I totally agree with him. His last part, the issue of integrity remains a major issue in the media industry. We seem to have people who found themselves in the job by happenstance, not people who, from the outset, prepared to actually practice journalism. That remains a major issue. Yes, because if you have, from the beginning, decided to engage in this practice, no matter the challenge that you meet on your way, it's not going to really weigh you down. But it does appear we have so many people that just strayed into the profession, and that has continued to cast aspersion, so to speak, to the profession. Well, going straight to your question about what are the challenges. Yes, we have our own peculiar environmental challenges, plaguing against the profession within our own client. Because oftentimes we seem to be so free to make a comparative analysis with our contemporaries in other climes. But we don't look at it from the environment they operate and our own environment. Journalists in Nigeria are poorly remunerated. It's a major challenge. They are poorly remunerated. In most cases, they are epileptically remunerated. In some cases, they are not remunerated at all. And that's the situation we have on our hands. Most of our people, somebody has been in the profession for years, several years, and what is your take home? Almost next to nothing. You see people who work for months. As we speak, I have media platforms that owe workers up to 20 months arrears of salary. You have some that are owed more than a year. And there is no way you're going to expect that person to still be that committed, practice without compromise, because he's also got a family to take care of. He's got children, he's got school fees to pay, he's got medical bills to pay, and of course, accommodation, and all that. So the issue of poor remuneration continues to plague against the profession. And that's the truth. And as a leadership at the NUJ, we've been interfacing, making effort really, interfacing with the media platforms, media owners, on how to address this major challenge. Journalists in this country are terribly poorly remunerated, and that remains a major challenge that we have in the industry. And of course, the issue of ownership is another challenge that we have in the profession. It is often said that whoever pays the piper dictates the tune. You see, politicians have now strayed into the media industry, and they own substantial number of media platforms, print and electronic, in the country today. And the issue of censorship comes in. The owner has his own idea of why he set up the platform. You, the practitioner, have your own idea why you are in the profession. And when there is that clash of interest, of course, oftentimes the interest of the owner takes preeminence. And that is the problem we have. Ownership challenge, poor remuneration. Journalists are poorly equipped. You have people that get jobs, they are not with the wherewithal to work. Insurance is zero. Health insurance is non-existent. That is a major challenge. Of course, the advent of social media is also coming with its own challenge. So all these things put together, you have the incessant clampdown on journalists. Safety is almost gone. There's free speech is not given a place to operate. So these are major issues that we face every day as practitioners in this country.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That has been the president of the NUJ, Mr. Christopher Isigizo, giving us his take on the major constraints militating against the media in taking up its role in the fight against corruption. Thank you so much to my guests. I'm going to hand you all back to PRIMORG's program manager, Adobe Obiamumo, to conclude. Just to mention, to follow PRIMORG on social media at PRIMORG Official. Back to you, Adobe.
Before we conclude, I would like Majibola Hamza to answer to the last question. In what ways has corruption affected media reportage in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think Dr. Ohaba has said a lot about how corruption has affected investigative reporting in Nigeria. But I would just emphasize that the quality of the reporting that we see everywhere is one way you can easily see how corruption has, undermine what you do as journalists. So you could find out that when a journalist goes out to report about something, and whoever that called for the event, either politicians or a business person, gratify the journalist. Once you get a gift has a way of, influencing your perception of issues. So there's no way you're going to report that person in a very objective way, especially in a matter that is controversial. So whoever that gratifies you, there's that tendency for you to give that kind of a person some kind of favorable reporting, and that is how you could see a lot of reports in the media being skewed. Another one is investigation is very, very expensive to do. Very
funding.
Yeah, so you need funding to do this kind of investigation. So when newsroom cannot afford to bankroll those kind of investigative reports, then they go for the run-of-the-mill kind of reporting. And that's when you see journalists chasing the breaking news and getting, what's it called now? The PR materials for
brown envelope, like some would call it.
No, I'm not even talking about the brand. I'm talking about getting PR materials, statements. Yeah. So people are just reporting opinions. People are reporting views. They are not really checking any of those things. So those are the ways that investigative reporting has been affected.
Okay, we can still accommodate one or two calls. The numbers to call are 090-30,899, 090-998-770. Ayuade, what would you recommend? We have young journalists out there.
Yeah. For me, because of the terrain where you find yourself as a journalist in Nigeria, which is far, far different from out there, you don't even need to do anything to support your job if you want to pay children's school fees and to help yourself. But here, I keep telling, especially the female ones, you just have to diversify as well. That is just the truth.
Diversify your source of income.
Yes.
Why would you recommend that?
That's what I'm doing. If you really want to practice, for me, journalism is in between passion and the conscience, just like I mentioned earlier. If you think, I started with the passion, not with the money, and I've come to realize in Nigeria that it doesn't really bring money, which to an extent is not even true.
You have
because
to pay.
But if you do some stories, for me, I tell my reporters, don't look for brown envelope. Take a story out of a story and do something big. Make it global. Then people that really deserve what you have done, they will look for you.
Okay.
Another thing is also you can look into other areas of business you think you're good at. You can invest, do other things to keep your money coming while you face the profession as a passion.
Mrs. Tosin, you are a journalist also. Yeah. What would you advise the female journalists now out there?
Okay, as a female journalist, you must have integrity. You are not supposed to forget who you are. In the process of finding a story, you must not compromise. Always remember who you are and why you are doing the story. It is also important for you to have the fear of God. Whatever you're doing, your conscience is very, very important. Also, challenges of journalism generally. I think it's high time journalists all continue to invest in the new media. We must continue to partner with development partners, to use the social media to name and shame. The concept of naming and shaming. You can use you can take your phones to take pictures of, for example, a dilapidated building without access to toilets. You can post it on social media, post it on Twitter, tag the state government, the local government. When you name and shame them, they will be embarrassed and they will create a change. Journalism should go into development. We must begin to think about human development. Whatever we are doing.
Take the human angle of it. To balance the equation, Dr. Theophilus, what would you advise the male journalists out there? 1 minute, please.
So, actually, journalism, we're just a gentleman of the press. So what applies to, female journalists also applies to male journalists. The thing is that you have to be focused. If you are focused as a journalist, you make a lot of impact. I keep advising journalists to take a stream. That means if you are going to be reporting climate change, do it well. If you are going to be reporting even the financial market, do it well. If you are going to be reporting electricity, do it well. Whatever field you are reporting, make sure that you do it so well that you get recognized, that people will know you and look as an expert in that area. In other parts of the world, journalists are the ones who write the big books that people read. On politics, books on even the economy, journalists are the ones who write them. So we have opportunity of doing a whole lot. There are so many issues, so much that we can do as journalists that we are not doing. So if you focus on one area and become an expert, in that area, you'll be known for it, and you are going to realize the benefits.
Okay, thank you so much. Section 22 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, empowers the journalist to hold the government to account. The role of the journalist cannot be overemphasized. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Choma Agribu, for a wonderful moderation. Like some people say that we are all corrupt, but now we know that we are not all corrupt. We have the likes of Mrs. Bukola Akinwumi. With this, we've come to the end of this special radio town hall meeting against corruption. We appreciate Mrs. Bukola Adewumi, who has set the pace in journalism by providing truth about people from government and corporate entities without fear or favor. We also commend Tosin Kolade, who told us how Adewumi has positively influenced her. We also appreciate our speakers, Christopher Isuguzo, President NUJ, who spoke to us via phone, Emmanuel Obeche, Chairman NUJ Abuja Council, Dr. Theophilus Abba, Director Daily Trust Foundation, who is right here in the studio, Hamzat Ajibola, Editor ICIR, Olatokewa Ayoade, Head of News, Kiss FM, and Mr. Nenga from Accountability Lab. If you have a message for us or you want to react to what you have heard on this program, please send us a message through 0902 265 6167. 0902 265 6167 or through info@primorg.org. Please visit the news page of our website, news.primorg.org. That is news.primorg.org for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, primorg.org, to get all the information about PRIMORG. PRIMORG is spelled P-R-I-M-O-R-G. PRIMORG's engagement against corruption is supported by John T. and Catherine D. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation at its website, macfound.org. We will give you enough notice for our next radio town hall meeting here. Please follow us on all our social media platforms at Official PRIMORG. To get timely information on our activities, I am Adaobi Obiabumo, the Program Manager at PRIMORG. Thank you so much and stay safe.